Okay, everybody. Probably different than music. All right. Well, welcome to day 2. Let's see. Before we move forward, any questions on the topics, information, or anything from yesterday? Anyone? You got it? It's all clear?
Okay.
Yes, sir.
There was the 5 phases of yin and yang.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think I missed the last phase. We had opposition, interdependence, interconsumption, intertransformation.
And you should know this one.
Um,
You went to the school, they taught that.
I
Chapter
did?
2. Yeah, yin and yang, 5 phases of yin and yang. Traditional Chinese medicine, the big red book. We all know it, man, if you want to be in the club.
I don't know it.
Oh, great. At least she's honest. She made up something. I don't remember that. Yeah, that's it. No. Infinite divisibility.
That's it.
Right? Man, woman makes, goes on and on and on. So perpetuates the suffering. Good question. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
4?
Oh, stop it now. Well, so the first one, we're talking about, for those of us just tuning in, we're talking about the 5 phases. Yin and yang is often misconstrued as yin and yang. You know what I mean? Like, oh, it's yin and yang, I got that. No, you don't have that. There's more to it than just yin and yang. Let me break out my book here because I don't even remember. I do, but I want to see if I can.
Those of us who weren't with us yet.
Yes, okay, so, because we need to do this anyways. So let me kind of go backwards and then go forward here. Backwards is, hey, you need to know energetic anatomy and physiology. Why? You know, so you're doing the medical Qigong, you can physically do the movements, and we talked about yesterday, being the movement is the real benefit. Does this make any sense? So for a big part of my training, the first 10 years, it was pretty much, shut up and move was the policy. And I'm really not going to answer any of your questions until you've done this for at least 7 years. That's just the policy. So back then, and that's the old Shaolin monk story, how they did that, with the kids. They would take them into the temple. They'd find a prodigy, anyone 8 years old, and they'd say, oh, this guy's pretty good. Let's take him. Oh, she's amazing. Let's take her. And then the boy comes back a year later, and the whole town comes around. Wow, what did you learn at the temple? Because back then, that was the only way you'd get an education. They would teach medicine, architecture, all the stuff you'd need to make that little town work. So the little child would be like little brain trust, So everyone's excited. We're going to get an upgraded information from the temple. Give it to us. And the little kid's standing there. It's like, well, they didn't teach me, anything. Well, no, show us moves. We want moves and stuff. So I didn't learn anything. It's, well, what did you do? Well, come, I had nothing. I just, work. A lot of pressure. He throws a fit, slams his hands on the table, and the table busts into 1,000 pieces. Like, all I did was carry water. Go down to the lake, to the river, empty the water, fill it, knock it all out with my hands. That's what they told me. I can only empty the buckets with my hands. Well, they taught him iron hand training. But they didn't tell him this is iron hand training. They told him this is laundry. And this is how we do laundry and do this. And that's a lot of how I was taught. You're not taught. And the reason is in case you bail. They would do it because they'd want to protect the lineage. And they'd also want to protect the actual temple, because what would happen is a lot of times you'd get these, guys that would learn, not become initiate, go out and become bandits. And even sometimes come back and destroy the temple itself. And so back then, this information was like our military secrets, to them. So they were really, really careful of trying to keep you in the dark as long as they could until you got a deep enough root so they can trust you. Then they'd say, oh, by the way, this is what's happening. Does this make any sense? Again, in today's time, and especially with the Western mind, it doesn't work. You know, you can't just say, shut up and believe me, I'll talk to you in 7 years, because we'll just quit. So what we do is, which is kind of, this is like your first generation of doing this, is explain to you what's going on now as you're going through it. More like a Western education model, and we need to know. You know, so the energetic anatomy and physiology, I believe, does expedite this process much quicker. Like if I would have been sat down and said, hey, look, this is what this is, I think I would have gotten there quicker, but maybe not. I don't know. You know, that's how we were taught acupressure, you know, but it wasn't acupressure, it was Dima, you know. So we had the wooden man, and all the points were on the wooden man. And so you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You're hitting all of these, you know, shoe points or moon points on the body, and you get really good at nailing all the points. But oh, actually, that was a gallbladder. You know, oh, this is lungs. Oh, you know, but they didn't tell you that. And then when you look at the chart, you're like, hey, wait a second, I know all of these. You're going through it in your head and say, oh, that's Hegu. You know how many times I nailed Hegu to release a grip? You know, you can nail Hegu 4 and 11. Oh, the arm opens up. You know, I didn't know that, but I know it. And that's how they taught it. And then it's like, oh, here's scholar time. Here's your book. Oh, I already know this. I know, but now you know what it's called. So it's a flip, you know, but it is a different way of learning because you don't remember it. You just know it. Big, huge difference. So with this generation, it's like, well, guys, we need, if I can show you immediately, you're going to get more quickly. Okay, does this make any sense? Real important piece. So, because then there's the 3. Position, breath, and visualization. And the visualization really does incorporate the energetic anatomy and physiology. You get on the Shen Gong training, you're going to get more out of it if you know you're leading Qi up these meridians where they begin and end. You're going to get more out of it if you understand, you know, the way the energy rises and this energy falls and these are divided. So actually to have that piece expedites you. But the problem is, if you quit, you might come back and kill me, which you won't. We don't live in those days. But back then, that's how it was. All right, now I'm going to get you with my bad Qigong fist. You're not. Actually, I'm not worried about that. Show up on my property. I won't even waste energy. I'll just shoot you. So, but anyways, we live in different times. You know? So, it'd be kind of funny. So, let's talk about the phases and why we do this. So, there's first thing we need to know is there's a concept of Qi, right? So that's what we want to look at. You know, the system, and then if we know what the components of the system are, we have a better chance of troubleshooting it, you know, primarily ourselves. So if we say the Qi piece, okay, so let's start with that. Then we'll get you in and know. All right, what kind of Qi is there? There's Qi. There's different realms in which Qi even resides. So we can maybe first talk about the different realms. So there's a Qi, you know, there's Qi in the minerals, there's Qi in plants, there's Qi, right, in animals, and then there's Qi in human beings. These are different realms, right? And then there's universal Qi. And then the energy is kind of like the Qi is Shan Jing. It has to be there. So we are, our Western, what is it? What are they? They're quantum physics. So they can look at a rock and say, you know what, this rock is mostly space, right? It really is. And as a matter of fact, it's even flashing in and out of existence rapidly. And wait, as a matter of fact, it's only existing because there's an observer. And no observer, no rock. We gotten to that point. So it's like, oh, that's kind of heavy. Well, Buddha talked about that. You know, so, but Buddha got there and the rest of those dudes got there via alchemy. You know, we hit it from that side. And the Western, of course, are going to find God through science. Either way, you find yourself in the same room. Two enemies in the same room. So, okay, we know that there's this, what's holding this consciousness saying rock, 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 right? And moreover, you looking at it. No one sees a rock, there's no rock. That's why we have insects and stuff. They see the rock, so they keep the rock when we're not there camping. But that's a different story. So you have these realms, right? Then you said the human being. What about chi in the human being? And this is most important to us. So let's talk about that. First chi is yuan chi, or right? This is universal. Then there's original chi, which is coming from your kidneys, right? This is jing chi, and that's coming from your ancestral, your DNA. That's, the formation. That's first chi. Then that determined your eye color and all that stuff. Then the next chi is pectoral chi. You inhale upon birth, right? And there's a fuel. Next chi is blood chi, mother's milk, right? Fuel. So you take your ancestral chi, you take your pectoral chi, you take your blood chi, you mix them, and you come up with the fourth chi, which is your wei chi field. Does this make any sense? Why is it important? Real important. Well, we do a lot of work to heat up this lower DN10. The heat up the lower DN10 is to support the kidneys and basically maximize, tonify, activate kidney chi. So we've got to go all the way back. The Taoist view is always about going back to birth. It's always about, going all the way back. So we start with ancestral chi. We start with kidney chi. We put a tremendous amount of energy into bringing the heat, like we talked about yesterday, to the lower DN10. From the sternum down to the toes. Technically navel to the toes, because this would be the mid-DN10. Either way. So that's the first chi we really work on, huh? Because that's the first to show and the first to go. It expresses itself in your vitality, in your hair, in your skin, your everything, okay? So ancestral chi. Number one, always tonify. Always tonify, never sedate kidney chi, right? Number two, we say, well, you breathe coming out of the womb, you inhale, right? And then you cry. And there's your Po shows up, activate the lungs, okay? So, of course, we're fortifying the blood with oxygen. So we're like, guess what, guys? Not only do we need to move this, work this, but we got to lengthen, strengthen, and regulate breath. Now we're upgrading the quality of the second chi. Not randomly, not sporadically, but really, really deliberately, because you know how the thing was put together. You're not just going to get up and say, well, let's try this now. No, I understand what's happening here. I've got to restore this body. I'm going to start with ancestral chi. I'm going to really work on this water protocol. That's why it's in there. I'm really going to consider all of this lower abdominal breath. I'm going to consider bringing heat. This is real important to me. Oh, I'm an advanced trainer. I do Moxa protocol. I do whatever it takes to drop this, juice into this supporting of ancestral chi. Oh, now I'm going to lengthen the breath. I'm going to lengthen and strengthen the breath. I'm going to regulate the breath. Oh, good job, pectoral chi. Now you're going from low octane blood to high octane blood because it's highly oxygenated and therefore fortifying all the cells in the body. Outstanding. Blood chi. Again, lower abdominal breathing, digestion, and elimination. So now we're moving this thing. So small intestine, large intestine, the ability to actually assimilate the nutrients from your food is upgraded. Because when we look at the unraveling of the body, it starts with kidney 1. And that whole system starts dropping. It's like, okay, I got to start with this on chi. I'm going to go with the kidney chi, ancestral chi. Okay, then I look at the unraveling of the body, and it's shallow breathing out of your mouth. You're using 1/3 of your lungs, standing there like a zombie. No, shut your mouth, breathe through your nose, breathe deep. Fix this. So I know when I'm putting this whole thing together, it looks like I'm doing a million things, and I am, but I'm not. I'm doing a few things over and over again, a few different ways, So it's really not complex. It's really, really simple. But the more you understand something on its most basic level, the more complicated you can express it. Very much like music. If they say, oh, that's a C minor, that's a F sharp and a 7. Oh, I get that. I can get there a million ways because I know it. I'm not just hitting the tonic note. There's my little analogy. Music. I'm trying to soften my analogies. They always used to be martial, so now it's music and painting and gardening. And so it's a softer me. How's it working?
Hopefully it will.
So, okay, so can we see the work we're doing with, ancestral chi first, kidney chi first, that's where the tire meets the road, lengthen the breath, beautiful, beautiful. Now, lower abdominal breath, move, so this person now by moving, I can assimilate this energy from the blood chi, food chi. Make sense? So just in that, I've upgraded the operation of the system, not like sporadically or randomly or luckily, we did it. Now, if I can get all those three on board, I have Wei Qi field. Now my immune system, my juice is where it needs to be. Does this make any sense? Okay. And then what you can do is, if you say, okay, get this going, do the breath, good long breath. Also, the kind of food you eat, quality of food, it dictates. But see, I'm of the opinion, you can eat really good food, and I see people do it all the time, and they've got their organic food in their ball jar, but you're not doing anything. So you got really good stuff, but your body isn't really breaking it down and maximizing it. You're primarily passing most of it. So even at a certain point, you're really sick, when even the medicine, right, you can't use, like, she's not even responding to the medicine, the body's just passing it. Well, you're on your way out. So we have to make sure we get those three going, right? Quality of breath, movement for aiding in digestion, and then mixing all three for the Wei Qi field. So, Qi, ancestral Qi, pectoral Qi, blood Qi, Wei Qi field. That's all we need to know for this level of training. Make sense? Questions? Does that sound familiar? All right. So, okay, so it's all we need to know at this level of the different qualities and types of Qi. Then we say yin yang. That's the next piece. Well, you know what the problem is now? So we can just say this is energy and the types of energy. And maybe we can even say we have gauges. So this is my, Wei Qi gauge, and it's got a little thing with the thing. Oh, here's my pectoral Qi gauge. Oh, here's my blood Qi gauge, and here's my Wei Qi field gauge. These are gauges. And so gauge is nothing but a yin and yang. So if this is pegging over to here, right, it would be yang, full tank. But this one has dropped down over to here. Oh, that was a yin, empty tank. Simple way to look at it. So we want to look at our body, understand that there's energy flowing through the body, and we don't want too much or too little. Does this make any sense? Right? Yeah, it's real simple. But we got to be able to look at too much of what, too little of what. So we say we measure the quantity and the quality of this Qi running through the system using the yin yang. Makes sense, right? And so we start off with the first one. We say, okay, there's different ways we can look at it. We can say, all right, well, the first type of yin yang is the easiest one to see, and that's the black and white, right? The opposition force. So that's the very beginning. We make something exist. This stands out. I cannot be smart if there isn't somebody stupid. I cannot be beautiful if there isn't someone ugly. I cannot be tall if there isn't someone short, right? So I always surround myself with, slightly overweight, short, sightly assistants. So I'm always looking good. I use that for my
I fear for you, sir.
Yeah. It's really genius. So you see, you can manipulate it too. You know what the difference is between alchemy and sorcery? There's Taoist alchemist and there's a Taoist sorcerer. Did you know that? Oh yeah. So alchemist is about promoting life. Alchemist is this generating cycle. Alchemist is about making the situation better for himself, herself, and everything around it, all sentient beings. Right? Sorcerer is about using this information for their immediate and instant gain. So sorcery, its power is power. So I can use a sword to terrorize the neighborhood, or I can use a sword to protect the neighborhood. The sword is pretty much neutral. So this information isn't good or bad. It's neutral. So we have to make sure we develop discipline. That's why another reason they say shut up and train for 7 years. Because if I start teaching you some of this stuff, you can really start to become a cunning, manipulative person. And if you don't have self-respect, and you don't have discipline, and you don't have patience, and you don't develop some type of heart, you can become a really powerful, evil person by knowing stuff, this privileged information that the average person doesn't know. And you have like this hidden advantage because you're just sitting there and you're running this whole thing, and this person's sitting there not even knowing how you're sizing them up. And it's tremendous. I can show you a million ways you can really become the manipulator. This is what I have found. Some of my grandmasters have reached very high level. I've had some that turned into sorcerers, and they really did some damage. But it ultimately came back to their life. And the ones that do that tend not to live long. They live well, like they party and they roll, you know what I mean? But they end tragically. So you want to serve the light. And that's another reason they wait before they give you this stuff, okay? Just so you know. So we have this yin-yang, and we talked about the opposition. First step is knowing there's an opposition. And that tells you, hey man, when you're little, you know, I asked my stepson's 10 now. So he's a tween? No, he's 11. Okay, so he's now starting. His feet stink. You know what I mean? That means his testosterone's coming in. I'm like, oh god. You know what I mean? And so it's been, his boys stink. You know what I mean? What is that all about? But there's a whole reason we can go into it later. I do know what it's about. It's disgusting. So he's like, girls are stupid. So I know where he's at in this evolution. Can you see it? No, they're kind of stupid and it's awkward. No, I'm not going to play with her because we have my brother's girlfriend, same age, but she's stupid, right? Okay, so that tells me he's the first level. He's still into opposition, right? What's the next phase? Interdependence, right? Well, now he's starting to realize that he does feel a little bit better about his Minecraft skills and building fires and looking for snakes with a stick when she's around. Doesn't know why, but he's just feeling the love. He said, yeah, I got this. Don't worry about the snakes over here. Oh, I'm looking at, well, now you're the man, huh? So can you see it? So you look at the little dude and you see now he's starting this, his sense of self is being basically compounded by the interdependence of her. Does this make any sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. Inner consumption. So now, her views and her ways as they build the silly little treehouse changes the dynamic of the treehouse. Because now all of a sudden they've got a silly flower pot with the flowers and they got, right? And he's kind of like taking this in and it's feeding him energetically and he's digging it, doesn't know why. I'm like, you didn't have a flower pot last year. You know? I know what's going on, but it's really good message. What? I don't need a flower pot. Okay. So, do you see it? And so there's now the inner transformation piece comes from that whole part of you complete me. You know what I mean? And it's like this piece and that piece, we've become a whole, you know? And now I start to actually pick up on, I actually like some of your silly little girly songs, you know what I mean? And I'm really starting to dig this. And then the fifth one you gotta really watch out for, no playing in the treehouse, infinite divisibility. Because then you got another little guy running around. You're like, dude, you're 11. So, but can you see it? You can see the level of maturity in the individual just by how they roll with these phases. The real ignorant mind is like, well, he's black and I'm white. Okay, so therefore I'm cool and he's a fool. No, that means you're just really a limited caveman. So then I evolve and I realize, wait a second, the different races, oh, but guess what? They bring in this. Oh, wow, we got all of this expansion of our culture. And oh, wow. And as you evolve, you can see that, wait, man, this is awesome. And as a matter of fact, we'll blend them and we'll make a bunch. So you can even see it in our races. You can see it in government. You can see it in a business. You can see it in a new employee. Does this make any sense? The employee that you don't want is like, well, the boss sucks and I'm cool. Well, that's this complete yin-yang mind. It's very limited mind. But when he realizes, oh, wait a second, There's an interdependence. He sucks, but I got a job. You know what I mean? There's consumption, and I got paid. And we're going to try to get this company to grow. Well, let's do another chain, and maybe I can be the boss. Evolution. That's the better employee who's actually trying to build it so that you get the second location. Not the guy that's on the basic yin-yang, oh, screw this, I'll show up late, leave early, and get what I can. You're operating on a very basic level of existence. So you can quickly see where someone's standing based on these phases of yin and yang and their personal evolution. And whether or not they can truly say, wait a second, this whole thing's a loop. And I'm suffering the illusion of individuality so we can make something happen here. Does this make sense? Does that make sense? But it always starts at the beginning with the big bang of splitting from 0, or splitting from 1 to 2. So the polarity must be greatest. If we look at even here, and then we have the little boy, right? And we have the little girl. We'll give her the little standard restroom dress like they always do, right? And so, when he drops into his full puberty, he's going to be as manly as he can be. You know what I mean? It's very manly. And then she's going to be as feminine as she can be. And then ideally, as we age, though, he starts to evolve actually more towards the center. And now his views aren't extremely masculine and extremely linear and extremely, let's say a left brain. He's got to cultivate right brain. Then when she's go ahead, she's got to cultivate left brain. She's got to cultivate linear. She's got to cultivate, so we all find the center. And a lot of times you're like, well, maybe I can take this guy because he's got some of the linear masculine. Oh, I can take her. She's kind of lateral and creative, and we can become one. Yeah, maybe, but maybe they don't become one. Learn from each other. And then you can take, and she can take, and then you meet in the middle. This is evolution. But a basic, mentality is no, it's a man's world. That won't work either. It's a mess. It's a good start, but it's got to keep clicking in. So we can see this yin and yang over and over again. Does this make any sense? You can see it with disease. You can see it with money. You can see it with everything. But the first step is we have to know that this is not fixed. It's spinning. It's a ball that looks more like a big ball of mercury than it does a black and white. I know mine isn't black and white. All right, here we go. Getting crazy. Here we go now. There you go. See what I did there? And so this is heavy, right? This is light, it's moving it. Okay, so that's a ball. This is actually, whenever you see a yin-yang symbol, it's dead because it's been dissected. All right, it's like looking at a frog cut in half. The yin-yang symbol should really just be a mercury ball spinning. Make any sense? But we're like, what's making that spin? I'll split it in half. Let's check it out. So that's really a dissected ball. Does that make any sense? Questions? Does that help you with your phases?
Thank you.
Yeah. Any questions before I move on? Because this is part of the basic mechanics, some of the rudimentary understanding that we have to actually master. I'd rather you master some basic concepts than know of a million advanced concepts. So the basic concept is, rule number 1 here is qi and the different, expressions of qi, yin and yang and its phases. Okay? Who's next? What do you think is going to be next?
5 elephants.
You got it, the 5 elephants. Okay? Now, you also have seen, I don't even know if I can draw it. This one, I think. How do you draw it? I can't even draw it. I'm so pure in my nature, I can't draw an upside down one.
There you go.
Maybe. Is that even right? Yeah.
Yes.
So that's the witch, right? Oh my, you've got a pen off. Because I have a bass guitar, and I got a bunch of bass guitars, but it's got that on the plate. It's a custom Fender, and I had my scratch plate made and everything. And I put this on. And I got people, why you got a devil bass? Like, no, it's not a devil bass. You're just an imbecile. I'm like, what? I don't even answer. So, yeah, devil.
Scare you with my double bass.
But anyways, it's like no tolerance for ignorance. Okay, so but that points to what do you stand for? Are you using the basic understanding of the 5 elements to support and grow? Or you flip it upside down, and now that's a form of sorcery, and now you're using it for your immediate gain and selfish hope, right? So that's why sometimes this symbol gets a negative rap, because we see it sometimes, right? But it's upside down. We don't know the difference because we don't even know what the symbol means. Okay, so we have wood, right? We have fire, we have earth, we have metal, and we have water, okay? And so this chi runs through, in a balanced manner, the world of form. So we need to know that. So now we can take it a step further. We can say, okay, so we have chi, yin, yang, as it runs through form. All right, we're going to simplify the world of form and just break it down into 5 expressions. And then it could apply to this room, outside, you, anything. So this room, well, we know let's see if we can find all 5 elephants in this room, okay? Well, where's the wood? You can say we're wood, or did you do that, or you just lay in your chest?
No, wood.
Oh, good job. Watch you. So, yeah. So yes, you are wood. No one gets that usually. Floor looks like wood. It's not, but it looks like wood. Oh, but my step is wood. So we found wood. Congratulations. What about fire?
Light.
The light. Good. Okay. What about earth? It's harder in the manufactured world of man. What?
The gong.
The gong is not earth. It's metal.
Metal. Of course.
Right.
Drywall.
The drywall. Nice. It's gypsum. Good job. Good eye. Okay. So then we have earth. Okay. Now metal. The gong. Right. And the things, your chair legs and stuff. What about water? Anyone? Anyone? She's got a bottle of water. Okay. But I'm putting the room together for feng shui. Right? Blue wall. The blue wall. Yeah, that's why I put the blue wall in there. Okay? And that's also, I figured no one would get the drywall idea, so I painted it the color. So there you go. All right, don't have to look too far, everyone. So, but it's true. So I have wood, right? And you'll notice that you have water, right? And you have earth, right? And so water feeds wood, wood controls earth. So I know, I'm magic. And then the metal is everywhere. You can see it in the frames and things like that. And then who's left? Fire. No, we did fire. I think we got them all. Yeah, pretty simple, right? So if you go into a room or a business or a restaurant, and if these aren't all there, it'll feel weird. You won't know why, but it'll be like, you know what I mean? You go to, Hans's house and it's all white. Everything's white with chrome and glass, and you're like, okay, awkward and uncomfortable. He's sitting there with his turtleneck on, and it's like, so it's just, there's nothing warm and fuzzy. You're dying to get out of the room. Take your shoes off. No, your German uncle, I had one just like that. God, I got to get out of here. And so you miss the elemental feng shui, right? So we can look at that real quick. These 5 elements, or we can look at the body. We know wood, as far as the human body, belongs to what? Eyes, good. Liver, gallbladder. See where I'm going with this? Okay, then fire belongs to? Heart. Small intestine, right? Triple worm or pericardium, right? Earth, stomach, spleen, pancreas, right? Mouth, no? Metal? Lungs, large intestine, skin, body hair. Water? Kidney, bladder, right? Brains. Okay, so we're starting to know all of this, right? So we want to look at our body and put it in these basic hoppers, so then we can say, okay, well, let's look at the quality of chi as it runs through. I'm not feeling good. No, I'm not feeling 100%. Well, why? I don't know. Well, what is it? Well, let's see. My energy is down. What are the indications or symptoms or syndromes? My ears are ringing, feeling dizzy, just lacking energy. Who do you think's under assault? Water. You see it? So you know ears are ringing, middle ear maybe, definitely ears blowing the water. Dizzy, definitely now, it's definitely middle ear. Okay, so, and now I can start working. Does this make sense? So you can start to, I'm not feeling good. Not feeling good is going to be defined by what? Yin and yang. What do you mean? Differentiation of syndrome. So not feeling good. Too much energy. Feeling hyper, feeling tense, that would be excess. Not enough energy, right? That'd be deficient. We go later into the phases, and they are, oh, I'm going to get you, differentiation of syndromes. There's 8. I know. So it's like, damn it. I'll never tell them I'm taking a TCM course again. So, we can go later into that. But they go, is it excess or deficient? Is it hot or cold? Is it internal, external? Therefore, is it yin or yang? There's a real easy way to determine whether or not it's pegging this way or that way. Your little tip. So we can do quick observation and analysis of ourselves, a company, a government, a relationship, whatever you want, a meal. We can do a meal too. There's one thing though about the Korean food is they really are good with that. Every color is on the plate. All the different tastes are on the plate. You know, so you walk away, even if you don't eat a lot, you walk away feeling really nourished, really intelligent. You'll also notice that you like foods that belong to certain colors and systems and times. So, okay, what time's breakfast for the average person? Between when and when?
7.
Okay, and what element is that? Hari cycle, Hari clock. Stomach. Right? Right? I mean, you could go in large intestine, lungs in the morning, and then usually at that point, I'm just breathing, sitting, doing a meditation breath, you know. But guess what? Come stomach, spleen, I'm going to go into the, you know, acquiring resources. And you know what happens? What's the average color of that food? I got my eggs. What color are they?
Yellow.
All right, how about French toast? Oh, still yellow. Okay, oatmeal, kind of yellow. Anything you do, orange juice, yellow. It's like, it's all yellow. We love the yellow, you know, at that time in the morning. It's nourishing. It's comforting. You don't even know why. Yet your yellow pajamas on. You know what I mean? Your little Tweety bird next to you. It just makes you feel good during breakfast because you're eating your yellow Captain Crunch. So it's just yellow. It's a funny thing. And so if you start to see, oh, wow, look at this. What I think is random is not random. So you start to see the root power and its intelligence pulling the strings. You think it's random. It's not random. Nature is that way. You think it's random, it's not random. You walk out, you know, feed the pig, look over, there's a lizard this big. You know what? Every day he's there. It's not, oh, random lizard. No, he's there. That's where he goes. And up, there goes the ravens. And then at this time in the morning, and up, he sits here, he sits there. Everything, oh, mountain's moving. Oh, here's this shadow's very consistent. Does it move? There's nothing random. It looks random. Because it's such a complex expression, such a basic thing. So you can coexist with your environment, the people, the world, if you can break it down to its simple root. And then all of the little variables is mystifying. It's like, oh, all right, I get it. And if you get it, you can coexist within it. And that's the whole reason we want to know this stuff anyways. So you can kind of see the matrix. And now, are you going to change any of it? Nope, not changing a thing. You're just going to plug in. You're the one that needs to change. And so that's a big piece. So by understanding, well, guess what, guys? Chi. Oh, really? Yeah, it needs to be balanced. Oh, wow, really? Yeah, we're informed. Chi must be balanced and formed. Energy, balance, and form. Too much energy, like this light here, you know. Too much, it blows up. Not enough, it flickers. So it's real important to you know, realize these things and understand at least the basic 5 element there. Now we can go and say, oh, guess what? There's a supporting We know wood feeds fire, fire feeds earth, earth creates metal, metal creates water, and water feeds wood. Very simple. Right, can we all see, hopefully we see that. You've got to get, at this level, we really want to start to develop that basic understanding of the movement. Then we know, oh, you know what, there's a controlling cycle. See, at this level, the first 200 hours, you just need to know this. You don't even really need to know the phases of yin and yang or the expressions of qi at this level. All I want you to know is, guess what, there is qi. You know, there's a thing called balancing qi, and there's a thing called form here that we need to see how it runs through, and a basic idea of, you know, the 5-element system. Then once you finish that, we'll start getting into more, you know, complex playing around with it. But you need to, not even, you need to know this. Controlling. Wood controls earth. Earth controls water. Water controls fire. Fire controls metal. Metal controls earth. I know. Okay? How? So does someone give me an example? How does wood control earth? Yes.
As an example.
Yep.
Because it's kind of reflective of myself. You know, I have too much earth in the way of I like to eat and large intestine.
Mm-hmm.
And I think to discipline that, I need more tree. You know, more tree activity.
Right, movement.
And movement.
Yeah, that's a
And
simple way.
balance it.
Yeah. Okay, another way is if you have all kinds of, you know, dust, like on my property. I have a bunch of property, and so if I'm getting dust, what do? I plant grass. And then I plant dichondria, little clovers, and it holds the dust out. On the way to work, I see a bunch of little men building a road. That's wood controlling earth. They're cutting trenches for little wood dudes. But that's wood controlling earth. So once you see it, you know, and that's one of the games I play when I'm like at an airport waiting. I play this game. At first I look for elements. Then I look for the expressions. Oh, that's extreme. Oh, this is off balance. I'm not judging, I'm just observing. You know, and then I look at how these interactions of this is controlling that, that's controlling this, this is balanced. And I just sit there and look and observe and contemplate. And it helps pass time, and I'm no longer waiting, I'm being, and I'm learning by trying to put all this stuff together. Constantly, just, well, check that out, that's interesting. Otherwise, you'll never come up with real-time examples and application. It'll just stay in your book. So, does this kind of make sense? Questions? Anyone? Okay, now let's talk about the 8. Just when you thought I was done. All right, so we go like this. Sometimes I find it's easier to do that. See that? See what I just did there? Compensating for my art skills. And so we have 8, and we usually represent it with images of the I Ching. And now we introduce you to the 8, and then in the beyond that we really go heavy, you know. But at first, this level, here's 8. What 8?
Trigrams.
The 8 images, trigrams, right? 8 heavenly influences. Because so far we've really been talking about energy, balance, and chunk, which is form, you know. And we're talking about, you know, earth, kind of earthly chi. But you'll notice back when we were looking at fire, there was everyone had 2, but fire had 4. Do you know what I mean by that?
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, liver, gallbladder, stomach, spleen, kidney, bladder, you know. But then all of a sudden fire is like small intestine, heart, triple warmer, and pericardium. What the? Right, so that's the 6th chi. So, you know, up until more recently, which was in the advent of electric, right? It was considered the 6th chi. It was kind of mystical, usually expressed in lightning, you know. And so electric, we knew it was fire because when that lightning hit the tree, it burst into flames, but we didn't quite get it. And we knew we had the 6th chi in us, but what is it? The SA node in the heart is really what it is. The the chemical reaction to having minerals in the body. That's why if you don't have minerals, you kind of drop dead real quick and immediately, no matter how healthy you are, via depletion. So we know that there's this electric reaction going on. That's the sixth chi. Does this make any sense? Real important piece. And up until recently, it was more of a theory than an actual, oh, guess what? Here it is. This is what's happening. Very big one, though. We need to have an appreciation, because when that one stops, everything stops. The sixth chi. So we have this influence where the earth has energy, right? This is the earth, and we know the energy goes out, right? That's the magnetic field of the earth coming right through the center. And every planet has it. And they all have different sizes, right? We know this. So, but you know what also happens? So you sit here on this earth, right? And here you sit, and you have this ascending energy coming up, Po energy, running the machine, telling all the flowers to bloom, telling the birds to migrate, telling, the large intestine to move. Just all Po. Does this make sense? Mm-hmm. But then there's also descending energy coming down. From who? The sun. Right? Has a huge impact on the planet. We know that now. You can watch, there's a guy called the Suspicious Observer. It's great. I watch him in the morning, and he talks about real weather, space weather, and where water comes from, and how why we have earthquakes in different parts, and it's all based on the activity of the sun. We are ruled by the stars. We think we're not. We are. We know that when the moon shows up, it's a full moon. When is a full moon? It looks pretty full.
Yeah.
When? Yeah, okay. It does have an effect on us. So we're talking about the heavenly influence on the earthly chunk. And if we really want to look at and try to coexist with what's in the room, we got to consider all of the dominant energies. And that's what that is. So we say maybe this 5 element, my favorite analogy, is how we build the boat. Here's my boat. Okay? It's built out of 5 elements. Wood deck and, porcelain fittings for the pulleys and metal for the holding, and right? It's 5 elements make the boat. We can agree on that. And if this boat is in ship shape, all these elements, the wood isn't rotten, right? So there's a deficiency in chi in the wood, right? And maybe it's wet rot, so that would be yin. Oh, no, it dried out, that would be yang. You see, it created a problem with the wood, so I can look at my whole boat and say, this is getting dried out because it's on the top. Oh, man, this is rotting because it's on the bottom. I got a yin problem here, I got a yang problem here, and my wood element. Good job. So you walk around your boat, and you fix the silly boat. And it's in the ocean. And guess what it's subject to? The 8 influences. The heavenly winds, even. If your boat isn't stable and it gets that cold northern wind, it capsizes. Make sense? So we make it so that we could understand and balance the elements. The chi is balanced in form so we can coexist on the planet, but also with the heavenly influences, because we hold a pretty low position. We're subject to the earth, and the earth is subject to the heavens. Make sense? The movement of the constellation is a 12. So even the sun is ruled. Does this make sense? So we got to look at all of these players that affect us, because we're in a little galaxy and it's zipping about. We hold very low. And there's a lot of factors that determine whether you're going to have a good day or a bad day that are actually out of your influence. All you can do is coexist. Don't attach, don't judge. So that's what they're trying to do, is get a basic handle on, you know what it is? The course you never took in college. The course that was never provided in grammar school, and the subject matter that was never brought up by your parents. And that is the nature of reality. There's no teachings. You're taught, again, to speak your language, get a job, be a consumer, and procreate. That's your purpose, as far as our basic understanding. And if you can pull that off, you're considered successful, and most people can't. They really, really suffer just to pay their bills and feed their children. So it's almost just right above animal. But the real contemplation of the very nature of reality is not what's happening. And so this is the most basic baby steps of the nature of reality. And so if you can pull that off and see it before you're dead, remember we talked about growing up, not growing old? Because it takes about 108 years to truly learn the nature of reality. It's very complicated. We usually die long before we get through it. You kind of die a wrinkly old infant as far as your maturity. So that's a nice positive picture, isn't it? But because I mean that's what it is. So what we're trying to say is, no, I'm going to grow. I know I grow old. I want to grow up. I'm going to grow old. I'm going to grow up, damn it. And a big part of growing up is understanding the very nature of reality, because then we can start to sever a lot of the perceived limitations. You know? And so this is it. Questions? In my quick yin-yang or qi yin-yang 5 image drive-by, as far as I'm concerned. Yes?
So I'm just trying to understand, Po energy, is that from the earth?
Yeah,
When
earthly
you say
energy, yeah.
Po,
Po is, there's Han and Po, that's right now that's a 500-hour thing, you know, like once you're finished doing your longevity practice, but I'll throw it out there, let's get crazy. So there's a Han and Po. So you can say Po is all about yin. Women are Po, men are Han, therefore we're better. Right? But wait a minute, what about your yin-yang thing? No, I'm kidding. But but women are Po because they give birth to form. They produce form. Men are Han because it's ideas. So this makes sense. They're both equal in value, but you better know who you are inside that deal. And you don't even have to talk about genitals, because there's a feminine and masculine posture. We actually, if I'm in form, I'm actually in a feminine posture, even though I'm a man. But having the existence of being an erotic chunk of meat is my yin expression of my yang consciousness. Does that make any sense? No?
So are you getting man boobs when you get older?
Yes, and I'm working on mine. You know? Yeah.
What's the difference?
What the hell? I'm gonna use that one. That's great. Go ahead, I'm sorry. She derailed me with the math.
So what's the difference then between yin and yang and Po and Han?
Oh, God. Oh, okay, that's a great question. Because yin and yang would point to, you could say, is Po yin or yang? The yin, the Po and the Han are an actual state, you know? And this is just a measuring the quality. So there's Po is yin because it's a chunk. Han is yang because it's the light. Okay? Flashlight analogy. Let's do that. So the flashlight itself is yin because it's the chunk, right? Then it has a battery, that's the qi, right? But it's still yin expression because it's the battery. But the light is yang and it's Han. Because you can't have a handful of light. You can see it, it exists, but you can't put it on a scale. So we're talking about now realms of consciousness, where the quality of yin and yang is really talking about measuring form and energy. So Han and Po. Po, intelligence, which is a form of intelligence. It's an actual form of consciousness. There's a form of consciousness. You know, like you're not you. You're a bunch of you. You think you're you, but you're not. You think you're your body, but you're really not, because you're not sitting there digesting your French toast. Po is. You're like, okay, coming up. We're going up the ascending. All right, wait 1 second. I'm descending. You're not. You're doing your thing. That's Po. So we suffer, you know, the illusion of individuality. You're not dividing yourselves. They are, but you're not. That's Po. Autopilot, addicted to life. Po, that's ghost Po, right? Po, white, lungs. Lungs are completely addicted to the world. Lungs, metal, is the only real organ or concept of you that interacts with the world of form. Your skin, you breathe in the air. Your heart doesn't. Your heart sees the world, you're dead. Your liver sees the world, you're gone. But metal is totally into it. The fear of death belongs to metal. Po is all about staying alive. That's what it's about. Hun can care less. Hun's doing time.
So is Hun more like the awareness, the consciousness?
Hun is basically a form of consciousness that can reside in form at a slow enough frequency to communicate to Shan Chen, which belongs in the heart, and that's the eternal soul. If you want to, this is higher alchemy inside of the five, later. So they break it down, and these all have agents, these elements. You think you're an individual, you're not. The only thing that's individual about you is that one little bitty dollop of I am that's always been there. This is you. The rest is the chunk. Namaste. The God in me recognizes the God in you. A little bit of God. The rest is just crap. You're not your car, you're not your foot. You're experiencing a car and a foot. That's okay. A journey of Shan Chen. However, it's really, really too slow. Shan Chen's a high frequency. So Han is in the middle to talk to. It's kind of like middle management. You have the general, you have the captain, and you have the sergeant. The sergeant is in the field. The sergeant is Po. The sergeant's in dirt and blood with any tool, right? And then you have the higher officer. He's calling the general saying, look, Sergeant told me we're overrun, they need more ammunition, so artillery. The middle manager.
So is that like spirit?
Yeah. So that's all in advance, we'll talk later, but that's so you can get an appreciation. Your actual consciousness, the constant is what we're talking about. That's the whole game here. Is on the highest level of cultivation is how can we go through, create an environment in which we can cultivate a moment or two in which we actually see, experience, and be the nature of our mind. All you gotta do it is once or twice and your life changes. It's called the mind seal. And then you forever identify with that, not this.
So when you're saying you're not really you, you're referring to you as Hun.
I'm not me, meaning I'm experiencing being me. This isn't me.
Right, so this is Po.
Yes,
But me is Hun.
correct.
Okay.
That's certainly a way of, yes, correct. And there's called the separation of Hun and Po. As we get older, the body becomes such a train wreck, and it's so damn painful, and you haven't crapped in 3 days, that you're just miserable. And so, Elvis leaves the building. Hun is no longer there. You're just some Po demon. Again, not strong enough to live, and not brave enough to die. Standing at Luby's, waiting for that all-you-can-eat discount meal. You know what I mean? Sitting on the bus, going to Vegas with your cigarette. It's my addiction that's keeping me here. And that's all Po. You look in the eyes, they're dead. It shows up in the eyes. You can see someone's inspiration and how deeply rooted Hun is by the eyes. It shows up in max, usually it's free until 33. You'll notice most musicians and artists express before then because they just happen to have great Hun, great inspiration, and they can actually hear the collective, and they express it in their songs and art. So they're actually talking to everybody's Hun because their Hun is so strong because they're young. Then their Hun starts to wane, a lot of heroin and too many parties, and now nothing. It's just Po. No more hit songs. They no longer connect to the heart of the people. But it's usually free until 33. Does that make any sense? Yeah. So, any other questions before we finish this piece? Great question. Does this help us a little? And at this level of training, if you just understand that there's chi that needs to be balanced in form, so we can coexist on the earth, and then know right now of the concept that guess what? There's a heavenly influence. So it goes 1, 2, 3, 5, right? 8, 12. If you really want to get heavy, the 12 is, astrology, the 12 stems, heavenly stems. So once you kind of see that basic matrix, then we can start having a better shot of understanding the very nature of reality and maybe start tearing down some of the limitations that we've lived, which are the source of our suffering. So, okay, I think we've covered all of that. We'll take a break, and then we'll start doing karate. Some moves, we're gonna do moves.
500 and up in the other room, everyone else, and we'll keep it shared for